Greetings, and welcome to my channel. This is Sorcerer Tal. You can also find me on Facebook in the Sorcerers Guild. Today, on Magical Theory, we are going to talk about a spell battle frozen in time. Okay, so, Joseph Smith, the founder of the Mormon Church, before he began the church, was actually a member of the New York Masonic Lodge. While he was in New York, he got arrested for being a disorderly person, or essentially a con man, and after that, he was kicked out of the Masonic Lodge and started his own church, the Mormon Church. Now, both of these traditions have a very strong tradition of creating spell work and hidden meanings with symbols and images hidden in architecture. And so, later on, when Brigham Young, the second prophet, wound up out here in Utah, and the Capitol building for this Mormon-controlled city was built by the Masonic Lodge instead of local Mormon engineers, this sparked off a bit of a spell war. Now, the first thing that we're going to be talking about is this image hidden right here, just underneath the first windows. The interesting thing about it is that it is a salamander, which is something referenced later on by the Salamander Papers written by Mark Hoffman, claiming that the revelations of the Mormon Church were not given to the church, were not given to Joseph Smith by looking through a hagstone or magic or rock with a hole in it onto golden tablets, but rather he was given these revelations by a salamander. And of course, we're talking in sorcerer's terms here, so not a little biological amphibian, but a fire elemental, a lizard made of flame to speak in human tongues. Now, of course, this is more of your biological type, and I'm not claiming the Salamander Papers were real. They were actually proven to be forgeries. But it does seem that perhaps this is where Mark Hoffman got his idea to use the salamander. Okay, so as I was saying, both traditions have a strong tradition of using spell work within their architecture. And when the Masons built it, they were no exception. We have all these images up here from the different parts of the Masonic Church, or wherever exactly these faces are. I'm not entirely sure. I do know that one looks a lot like Aleister Crowley, but I don't think it actually was. Either way, we come over here, and we have these. These are spots where the original Masons actually put images up on these different spots, but then after the Mormons took control of the building, they actually came in immediately, removed those areas with a chisel, and then sanded them down to make it look as much like there was nothing there at all as they could. But there are some spots where they did not do this as well as others. So we will continue on, and I will show you a few more of the bit more blatant examples of where they defiled or removed symbols from the building to prevent the Masons from having whatever spell intent they had intended to put on the building. Okay, so perhaps those who are more studied in alchemy or Masonic imagery could tell me exactly what this one means. But on the one side, we have a lizard with a fish tail, and on this side, we have a lizard with two tails. Very well defined, looking down at his tail there, coming down at us, and in almost the exact same spot, but on the opposite side of the doors. Okay, and on this side we have a few more of these hidden spots with this little dot here that they clearly sanded something out from between the stones. One of the more hidden ones. We've got another one over on this side right here, and one there's almost a bit of something left on right here. They couldn't quite sand all this one away, so it's one of the ones that really gives away the secrets. But then we've got another one right here. We have an entire pedestal that just goes up to a blank stone because it was so in there that there was nothing they could do. Whatever was on there, they must have wanted it removed very badly. And the same on this side, where we have an even more blatant example where they must have had perhaps another cat or something poking out that they sanded all the way down into a tiny square to hide whatever being was protruding from the cement stone in that spot. along with the cats that they did not dare to touch. Okay, so we'll continue on. Okay, now we have the one on this side, and I've been told it's an alligator. I can't see it very well myself, quite frankly. I think it's a bit more eroded than the ones on the other side, but I've been told by those with keener eyes than mine that it is an alligator. Okay, and this one in particular, which no one has been able to tell what it is for quite a while. I like to think it's some sort of a dragon or something, but it seems like the ones on this side, well, they've suffered a lot more erosion than the ones on the other side. Perhaps they were a bit more intimidating than a couple of oddly tailed lizards. After all, if you were going to remove dragons or lizards, if you were going to pick one, I think I'd choose the dragon. And here we have the foundational stone showing when the building was actually dedicated, which was on July 25th, 1892. The interesting thing about that is the day after a very famous Utah holiday of when the Mormons got here in July 24th, 1847. This they have marked just the day after. And that actually may have a little bit to do with this particular spellwork of this particular building. And where that gets interesting is because it was then rededicated again in 1989, but on April 29th, the day before, also very famous pagan holiday, Beltane, which is also considered special to the Masonic Lodge. And so with both of these being off by just a date, it is as if they were trying to throw the timing or the mechanization of the entire state off by just a day or two. And the last of the images, they didn't seem quite as courageous to remove. We have first this snake hidden up in the corner here that perhaps they didn't notice. But you can see that they've sanded off some of the finer details. And then we come around and we have the dragon. Perhaps the same one as is imaged underneath the window on the east side of the building. And then we have, well, whatever it was, it seems like they almost tried to make it look like it had been weathered away by erosion. But how is it so much worse than all the things around it, to where it's still flaking to this day? Perhaps some chemical they placed on it to erode the cement itself. And then we have the forbidden fruit that they could not erase. Perhaps the same as the dots on the other side, but in a spot where they could not hide its removal. And so they were forced to leave it. But then we have the spot which at first is perhaps maybe the least interesting of all. This spot here. What is interesting to me about this particular spot is you can see that it is less sanded than the others. Though it is a small symbol, it must have been something very small there that they were removing. They were very anxious about its removal. As if they was afraid the stone would protect itself. As if they was afraid that something would leap out of the intricate pattern of cement to defend the spell. And perhaps they were right. And it is this moment here that shows us who would have won this spell in the end. Because with any spell battle, it is fear that breaks the enemy. It is when you get the enemy to become afraid that you have won your wizard war. And so, in this last moment, the person doing it ran away in fear, and the Masons won. And that is perhaps why, in this day, this building, which was once the Capitol building for the entire state, in the center of downtown, is now nothing more than a city building to sort files and arrange repairs.